Hello, today we're going to talk about your synthesis paper. You're going to find information about your synthesis paper under Assignment Templates and Grading Rubrics, a quick reference. You'll see here that there is a link to synthesis paper instructions and the synthesis rubric. These are two important documents that you're going to want to review and closely read before you begin writing your paper. To successfully complete this assignment, it is recommended that you begin writing your first draft about 7 days before the due date. When you begin reading about the contents of the synthesis paper, you're going to notice that many of the assignments that you have done and been graded on, the contents of those assignments are included in the synthesis paper. It is going to be important that you go back to those assignments and read the instructor's comments so that when you begin writing the synthesis paper, you're able to write a strong paper. When you review the directions for the assignment, you're going to see that this synthesis paper will include a title page, an abstract, an introduction, a methods section, review of the literature, discussion, conclusions, references. In addition, you will be attaching your table of evidence and your Prisma flow sheet as appendixes to the end of the paper. If comments or corrections were made on either of these documents by your instructor when they graded it, you will want to fix those before you add it as an appendix. An important point to note is that your paper should be no more than 10 pages. Now that does exclude the title page and the reference page. So here is a quick view of the rubric, and you will see that it clearly outlines how to earn the maximum number of points. It talks about the abstract, the introduction, the methods section, the review of the literature, critical appraisal of each study, which will be included in your review of the literature, the discussion, the conclusion, and the fact that it needs to be written in APA format with proper spelling and grammar. Next, I'm going to review how I would like for you to format your paper and specific information I will be looking for. In addition, I'm going to talk to you about some of my preferences as an instructor. So you do need a title page for this paper, and my preference is that your title page actually have a title. It is not acceptable to write the synthesis paper for evidence-based practice 2. Now your title page can be constructed in the student format, which means that you do not have to have a running head, but it should include page numbers. The next page of the document is your abstract. You will have to look up in your APA manual how to type an abstract using APA. You're also going to notice that there are 5 components to the abstract, and that an abstract is 150 words or less. So this can be challenging because you have to write very concisely to get the 5 components in and stay under 150 words. Also included in an abstract are key words used in your search. So you should include 3 to 5 keywords. Next is the actual document itself. So if you recall, when I graded previous papers, I instructed you not to type introduction at the top of it, because what you actually do is retype the title. It is assumed that your first paragraph is the introduction. The introduction should introduce your evidence-based practice topic and you need supporting data about why this is a significant topic. For example, if you were writing a paper about why nurses need to enter into the geriatric field, you would want to note how many baby boomers are going to need health care by the year 2025. This sets your significance. Or you could talk about how few nurses specialize in geriatrics, and this could set your significance. You'll also need to talk about the gaps in knowledge, and this is one of my preferences because I will look for this. So highlight or bold the sentences that talk about the gaps in knowledge. And always remember that your last sentence of the introduction is your thesis statement. So that should be your purpose statement. And you generally start out by saying the purpose of this paper is, and that will help you construct a very strong thesis statement. The next part of your paper is the methods section. So I do want you to enter the term methods. This will be considered a level 1 heading, and you need to review your APA manual on how to correctly type a level 1 heading. In this section, your Prisma flow sheet becomes very useful because you're going to talk about how you search the literature. My preference is that you highlight or bold the 2 search engines or databases you used in your search. You highlight or bold the inclusion and the exclusion criteria that you used, because you want to include both, not just inclusion and not just exclusion. And that you highlight or bold your search terms, which is those terms that include the word and, or, they might include your keywords. And we talked about these search terms when you wrote your PICO question. It was one of your first assignments. The next part of your paper is the review of literature. Again, this is going to be a level 1 heading, so look at your APA manual on how to format that. You're going to have about 5 paragraphs in your review of literature, because for each paragraph you're going to describe one of your 5 studies as it relates to your PICO question. So you're going to be talking about the intervention and outcome in that study as it relates to your PICO. But you also need to include the study design, the aims, the sample, and that intervention as it relates to the PICO, and the findings as it relates to the PICO. If there's p-values in there in a quantitative article noting significance, you want to include that statistical data. If it's a qualitative article, you won't be including that. You want to include strengths and limitations. I'm asking that you highlight or bold the word limitations when you talk about it, and you bold or highlight the word strengths when you talk about it. Be sure to rank your level of evidence. So you're going to want to highlight or bold the level of evidence and the instrument you are using. Several people got points taken off because they leveled their evidence incorrectly according to the Johns Hopkins, but they were using a different rating scale. It has to be noted what scale you're using, because I'm going to automatically grade it based on the Johns Hopkins unless it is clearly stated that a different scale was used. Also, don't forget to include the quality of the evidence and why you rated it that way. You're going to notice that a lot of this information was included in your table. So it's going to be very important for you to go back and read my comments that I made to you when I graded your table. If you did a thorough job on your table, this section should flow very easily. The next section is the one that's probably the most challenging for students to write, and it's the discussion. Again, you're going to include a level 1 heading here, but you're going to synthesize your findings. So basically what you're doing is you're taking the findings from all 5 studies and you compare and contrast those studies, noting similarities and differences. You might say 4 out of 5 studies found this, or only 1 study found this. And then talk about why you think that's so. You can't use first person, but you can put your opinion in when you are discussing the similarities and differences in these articles. Last is your conclusion. And in this last paragraph, you'll discuss if a change in practice is recommended based on the studies, why or why not. This should be about 1 paragraph long. And I'm going to look to see that you made a recommendation. So I highly suggest that you say, I recommend that there be a practice change, or I do not recommend there be a practice change. Make it very clear for me. Remember, no more than 10 pages in this paper or you lose points. If you're going over 10 pages, you need to write it more concisely, so you need to go back and revise. Next, you will have your reference page, which does need to be typed in APA format. I've been making comments on all of your assignments correcting APA format. So go back and see what I've said so that you score full points on this section. Next is your appendixes. The first one is your table of evidence. Again, make corrections on that table based on my comments. And you can change the orientation, because some of you submitted your tables as landscapes. You're going to have to Google it to see how to do it, but you can put in 1 page with the landscape orientation. Last is your Prisma flow sheet. Again, if I made comments on there, you need to go back and correct those. If you used the landscape orientation with your table, maybe you had 2 or 3 pages in landscape, you'll want to go back to portrait. And again, you might have to Google how to do this, but you can do it. What I do not want you to do, if you did your table in landscape, do not try to squeeze it into portrait orientation, or it's going to be difficult for me to read. So just review how to enter a landscape page when you have a paper set up in portrait orientation. I can tell you that if you follow my recommendations and preferences, you will earn a very high score on this paper. It makes it easier for me to find that you are addressing all the points of the paper when you highlight or bold those sections. It can be difficult sometimes for me to find them if you're not writing clearly what you are talking about. But if you highlight them, then I pay special attention to it. I strongly encourage you to begin writing this paper today. It's never too soon. You'll probably write 2 or 3 revisions before you have a final paper. This is worth 45 points. It's a big part of your grade for this class, so give it a significant amount of time. I hope this video helps, and if you have any questions at all, do not hesitate to reach out to me. We can talk by Zoom, phone, or we can just exchange emails. Have a great day.